The future of education is here. Education. It is the key to personal development and the future of societies. It unlocks opportunities and it narrows inequalities. It is the bedrock of informed, tolerant societies and is a primary driver of sustainable development. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to the largest disruption of education ever. In mid-July, schools were closed in more than 160 countries, affecting over 1 billion students. And at least 40 million children worldwide have missed out on their education in their critical preschool year. And parents, especially women, have been forced to assume heavy care burdens in their home. Despite the delivery of lessons by radio, television, and online, and the best efforts of our teachers and parents, many students remain out of reach. Learners with disabilities, those in minority or disadvantaged communities, displaced and refugee students, and those in remote areas are at highest risk of being left behind. And even for those who can access distance learning, their success depends on their living conditions, including the fair distribution of domestic duties. We already faced a learning crisis even before the pandemic. More than 250 million school-aged children were out of school, and only a quarter of secondary school children in developing countries were leaving school with basic skills. Now, we face a generational catastrophe that could waste untold human potential and undermine decades of progress and exacerbate entrenched inequalities. We are at a defining moment for the world's children and young people. The decisions that governments and our partners will take now will have lasting impacts on hundreds of millions of young people and on development prospects of countries for decades to come. This policy brief calls for action in 4 key areas. First, reopening schools. Once local transmission of COVID-19 is under control, getting students back into schools and learning institutions as safely as possible will be a top priority. We have issued guidance to help governments in this complex endeavor. It will be essential to balance health risks against risks in children's protection and education, and to factor in the impact on women's labor force participation. Consultation with parents, teachers, carers, and young people is fundamental. Second, prioritizing education in financing decisions. Before the crisis hit, low and middle income countries already faced an education funding gap of $1.5 trillion a year. This gap has now grown. Education budgets need to be protected and increased. And it is critical that education is at the heart of international solidarity efforts. From debt management and stimulus packages to global humanitarian appeals and official development assistance. Third, targeting the hardest to reach. Education initiatives must seek to reach those in the greatest risks of being left behind. People in emergencies and people in crisis. Minority groups of all kinds. Displaced people and those with disabilities. Third, targeting the hardest to reach. Education initiatives must seek to reach those in greatest risk of being left behind. like people in emergencies, people in crisis, minority groups of all kinds, displaced people, and those with disabilities. They should be sensitive to the specific challenges faced by girls, boys, women, and men, and should urgently seek to bridge the digital divide. Fourth, the future of education is here. We have generational opportunities to reimagine education. We can take a leap towards forward-looking systems that deliver quality education for all as a springboard for the Sustainable Development Goals. To achieve this, we need investment in digital literacy and infrastructure, an evolution towards learning how to learn, a rejuvenation of lifelong learning, and strengthened links between formal and non-formal education. And we need to draw on flexible delivery methods, digital technologies, and modernized curricula, while ensuring sustained support for teachers and communities. As the world faces unsustained levels of inequality, we need education, the great equalizer, more than ever. We must take bold steps now to create inclusive, resilient, and quality education systems fit for our future.